Hey everybody. It's been quite a while since I've done a video where I just specifically sat down and talked about all of the equipment that I use. Cameras, lenses, tripods, everything that we use when we go out and we're looking for wildlife. There's reasons for that, but I also recognize that not everybody's going to have a huge amount of time to watch probably this full video. So there's a 1-minute version. I go out and I try to capture wildlife on camera. To that end, I want the best possible image quality available within my ever thinly stretched budget. When I found a good spot, I use the Ursa Mini 4K G2. I pair that with a Canon 300mm f2.8 and an extender. For the wide shots, I use a DZO Film 20 to 55mm. I mount that on a Cam TV 18T Pro carbon fiber tripod. When I want to be a little bit more mobile out there in the field, I'm using a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K with a Canon 100 to 400mm, again with an extender, on another Cam TV, this time the 601A aluminum tripod. For vlogging landscape shots, I'll use the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K with an Olympus lens that is a 12 to 40mm. For vlogging, I'll also use a GoPro Hero 9 Black, a DJI Pocket 2, as well as my phone. Audio is very important, so I use a variety of shotgun mics for good enough audio, scratch audio. When possible, I use Tentacle Sync to get the audio lined up from a Zoom F6 with a pair of Rode M5. But wait, there's more, because I do still photography. That's a pair of Sony cameras, a Sony a7 IV, which uses a Tamron 28 to 200mm lens, and a Sony a7R5 with a Sony 200 to 600mm lens. And so for the long version. There's a lot that went into this and why I haven't done one in about 4 years. Gosh, almost 5. It was 2020 when I did it last, wasn't it? I remember being in my basement. It may have been 2021. That was a whole state ago. Doesn't matter. Anyway, point is that I held off for a long time. One of the reasons was because I kept getting new stuff and I kept thinking, oh, well, this is reasonably within my grasp, so I might as well wait until I have it and then do it then with the new thing and see how that improves. And part of it is also my own insecurities about, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never known what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along and just kind of learning and figuring it out. And also, I used to watch videos like these. There was a trend, I don't know if it still is. I stopped looking into it, but there was a whole thing called What's in My Bag. It was a series of videos that pretty much every content creator made, and they were all the same of like, this is what I use when I go out, when I make videos, this is what I use to do this. And it's really interesting to see the behind the scenes for someone who's getting into it. And then you realize that you're watching basically the same video from different people over and over and over, because they all use slight variations of the same stuff. Any of it's going to be good. It's just depending on what you're doing it for. And it became like, oh, great, another one of these. So that kind of held me back from doing it too, because I didn't want to do something that's just the same. But also I tackle with myself as far as my own insecurities of whether or not it's going to be even worth making as a video. Do I like my mental path of going down, I can make this for me. I can make this for people who are watching me and don't watch anybody else. I can make this for people who want to do what I'm doing, or I can just make it and see what happens. The range of all those things have kind of prevented me from doing any of that for quite a while. But I've been doing this for several years now, and I've learned a lot, and I have a bunch of stuff. And there's another reason that it kept me from doing it. Gear acquisition syndrome, GAS, G-A-S, is a thing that I've seen referenced online a lot. And it can also be kind of negative. It can be kind of toxic, where you'll kind of talk down to someone who's new at this, being like, oh, I want the best possible quality, something that I wanted. And they're like, you don't need that. Buy something secondhand, buy an old generation camera, use just your phone, whatever it wants to be. And I get it. Rather than have people waste money on something, I don't want to waste money at all either. Capitalism being what it is, and everybody wants the newest, shiniest thing. I get it. I also understand why you would want to curb that on new people and kind of make sure that they're into it before they really go into it. But it can also be a bit of a bummer. To me, it's about 50-50. And that might not be the right split for most people. So that's fair. And everything that I say in here is going to be taken with a grain of salt. This entire video is going to be one big grain of salt, that this doesn't mean that it's the best anything. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never known what I'm doing. I make it up as I go along. I think I said that already, unless that was a previous take, in which case I'm saying it now. I've never known what I've been doing at all in any of this. It's me making it up as I go and figuring it out and learning from my mistakes and the whole thing. But lost my train of thought. So that might not be a 50-50 split. It might not honestly be that, but getting a new thing, like a kid on Christmas, get a new toy. It's a really expensive camera. It's much more than just a toy, but that's kind of how it feels. I get to unbox it for the first time and explore it. And I get to see that. And not only is it, ooh, new shiny thing, it's what can I do with this? So it is a mix of both. And that's cool to me. And I'm happy about that. But to put too much emphasis on the camera and not the skills that go behind it also is a disrespect to the skills that go behind it, because that's not a 50-50 split. The camera can only take you so far. You got to learn the skills and the basics and how photography works. And that was something I actually realized for the first time. Again, you want to look up imposter syndrome? I got it. You want to look up, there are probably like 1,000 other ones. I'm not going to name them all, but sure, absolutely. There was something that happened more recently when one of my siblings wanted a camera, got a camera. On my recommendation, I looked up and went, here's what I would get for a beginner. Here's what, if I were starting out, this is what I would get. This is, it's a step up from the first camera I ever got, which I think is back there on a shelf, actually. I've been growing the vintage camera collection and making videos on that, which is fun. But anyway, I then sat down for about a 2-hour conversation and explained the basics of photography. Your exposure, your f-stop, your shutter speed, all the things, everything that I've learned, and just kind of explained it. And she got it and understood it. And it made me force myself to realize I do just a little bit know what I'm talking about. When for the first time in 8 years of picking up a camera and regularly going outside, I had to explain it to another person in depth. And I realized I can answer all the questions. I can use metaphors to make it make sense. We can talk about it in a few different ways. I didn't just memorize the facts. I actually understand the basics of it and like how it works. And I can translate that to someone else. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of what I see everyone on YouTube doing, which is then they just get far enough along that they know the understanding of it, and then they just start churning out content, teaching that to other people. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I did that for a sibling, a family member, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about that stuff. It's a hobby of mine that has grown into a passion, and I know what I'm talking about a smidge. So that's cool too. And that made me realize another avenue of my own mental things. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the equipment that I specifically use. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about why I have these things, talk about what else I'd like to get. Let's start getting into it. So the ideal situation is I go out, I've found a spot where I can reasonably set up, maybe conceal myself, and see wildlife reliably. And I'm out in the middle of nature, so there's no human intervention, no noise or anything. It's the perfect setup, and I can sit and I can watch. That's almost never happened in all of the years I've been doing this. There have been a few locations that kind of fit some of those criteria, and we make it work. The last time was sometime last year. I went to a state park, so the audio is not great. There's people around there's doing that, but I managed to capture footage of kestrels, American kestrels, which are really cool. And when I did that, and I knew I could go back and see them because that's where their nests were, I brought the big camera. Is my Ursa Mini by Blackmagic Design. It is the 4K G2. This has been great for years now. We bought it 4 years ago or so when I started. The body itself cost about $6,000. I bought it brand new. They actually were kind of out of stock. I couldn't find one. And I wound up having to purchase one from a third party, so I have no idea the warranty status on this. Should have just bought one new at that point, but it was still technically brand new. But anyway, all told, with all the accessories I had to get, because I'm not going to build up the whole thing in this. I'm just going to talk about it and grab the bodies to show and the lenses and whatnot. But there are things, if you want to see, I use it anytime I go out and I show what I'm doing. I got a handle to go on top, and then the viewfinder that's there. We record to SSDs with a big V-mount battery on the back. Tripod mount and everything. It's beefy when it gets all up in there, but it's a lot to put all that together here. So it's not necessary. We just talk about the fact that that's what I use for a camera. I use it because the battery. Nope. I use it because the lens. No, what? I use it because the sensor is great. I use it because this is what I could afford. This is not the first camera I ever bought, but this is when we go out and we set up. This is what I use. I would prefer to have something better. Sure. You could see that my volume came off. These were the volume knobs. They actually sent me some new ones, and I just never bothered to install them because I realized I don't use these. And if I ever, for some reason, have to sell anything like this, I'd rather have them, and I can just slap them on there and sell it in a much better condition. But I really like this. It's got fantastic image quality. By far, the 4K sensor that it has is better than anything else we've got. It's got built-in Um, ND filters, that's what it's called. I forgot the abbreviation for a minute there. Built-in ND filters, all kinds of adjustable things. I like that they're physical buttons. It's not all touchscreen because when I'm out there and I'm all bundled up and cold, I wear gloves and it's hard to do touchscreen with that, you know? And I can record off of everything. It's by far the most, not only expensive, but the most thorough camera that I have. Again, $6,000. I'd like to get better, but better would be one of the other ones that they put out. They put out a 12K, which would be incredible, but they also put out, okay, I can't read my notes all the way down there. Hold on. So they do have a 12K version, which is now by this point dropped in price to basically the same price as this one. I've heard mixed reviews on that one, that they took the same sensor size and just upped the resolution, which does look better, but it's not everything. And what people were asking for was a bigger sensor. And so they did that. And that's the newest thing that has now been announced. I don't know if it's actually out by the time of me recording this, but the 17K Ursa Cine is $30,000. That's not going to happen. That'd be cool. I don't think I can afford a $30,000 camera body anytime soon. So I'm going to stick with this for the foreseeable future. It has served me well. I really like it. I have control over it from the other ones that we're going to talk about. But what do I pair this with? Well, I got two lenses that I typically use. The reason that I went with the Ursa was bigger control, better over what I had been using. The first thing I bought was that Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K that we will get to, but we're not there yet. This is the Canon 300mm f2.8. Scroll back up in my notes. I paid $21.99, $2,200 for this. Bought it used, secondhand. I bought this before when I was shooting on Canon still photo cameras. It's been great. It's been fantastic. It's quite old at this point, and still just a workhorse. It is fantastic. Yes, the autofocus could be better. They do have better quality lenses since this thing has come out. You could tell it's seen better days for sure. It definitely has been through it, but you know what? It works just well. So I'm happy with it. And it's a Canon EF mount. I switched my still photography. We'll talk about that later, but this is what I had. And so I needed something that would take this and be an upgrade from the 6K. So we went with the 4, bigger body, accepts this. This is what we use with a 2x extender on it. Whenever we go out and we're doing videos, getting up close. I also have a 1.4x extender I can stick on there, or I can take them off entirely and get the full range of my f2.8 without an extender and just do the 300mm. Looks great. I'm happy with it. It's pleased. Yes, there are things I'd love to do. There are so many more lenses that I would love to get, but for now, that'll do. Obviously, the biggest, best lens that I could possibly get would be the Canon 50-1000mm. It's kind of the dream, and it's a dream because it's $75,000 brand new. That's a whole car. That's multiple cars. That's a really nice car, or multiple of my car. That's like 3.5 of my car, probably even more. I'm talking about like when I bought my car. That's a down payment on a house, a nice house. That's a considerable. That's multiple down payments on a house. That's a lot of money. That's what I'm getting at, rather than trying to explain it in different terms. It's more money than I reasonably am going to realistically have anytime soon. But that's the dream lens, right? Maybe slightly more attainable would be the Canon 600mm f4 or the Canon 400mm f2.8. You get another 100mm out of this without having to sacrifice any of that f-stop. I would be able to get nice and big, wide, big. Anyway, one of those are both like $12,000 and $13,000. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Again, brand new. I'd probably purchase secondhand, but it's just not really reasonably attainable. But the older that they get, and the more they come out with the new mirrorless and things, the better these old style will drop in price, is the theory. Lenses really hold their value. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, to be honest with you. And neither am I going to be able to afford it anytime soon. But this is what we use. I'm very happy with this lens. It has served me well for quite a while. It's pretty clean. I need to just take care of it. It doesn't actually have any scratches on there or anything, but it's a little dusty. It's been in my bag. I've been actually out using it. It's about time for a cleanup. But this is very zoomed in. What do I do when I need to get the wide angle shots? The DZO Film 20 to 55 millimeter. I picked this up a few years ago when I wanted to upgrade what I was doing as far as wide angle. I got to capture the landscape. Just the wildlife doesn't cut it. We got to do the landscape. And I use this in certain ways, different ways, but it's really nice. This is a good quality lens. I'm really happy with this. It's a manual lens. Everything is manual, so I can control my T-stop, which is technically almost the same as an f-stop, but not quite. Your zoom and your focus, everything here. They're all geared built in, so I can use that with handles and be able to actually control my focus or my zoom or whatever it is that I need to, which is super nice, rather than having to put that stupid little ring on, which I don't care for. And I've actually switched on 300. I don't use that at all anymore. I just use my hand. It's big enough. I can use that and adjust the focus as necessary. I don't know why I'm making hand motions when there is a lens right in front of me. I just do that. And for the most part, I do that too. Unless I need really fine motor control, then I'll put the gear on there and the wheel. But this is great. This does 20 to 55 millimeter, so I get pretty wide at 20 and even have a little bit of zoom up to 55. Helps me when I'm out there, and I get probably the best looking landscape shots when I'm doing that. It's just heavy, so I don't use it on any of the other cameras. This pretty much stays with the 4K and goes out when we're set up and we have a nice location and we're doing really good quality stuff. Oh, I picked this up for about 2,300, 2,289. Again, when I was buying mostly everything brand new, this was a brand new purchase. Has served me well for all the time that I use it. I just don't get out often enough with this camera and these things. But when I do, it's great. And it all has to go on something. So let me grab a tripod. I almost forgot. I put it away. It's back in the bag. But if I were to upgrade, the only thing that I can really think of, because again, for the setup that I'm using, it's got to be a Canon EF mount. So the only other lenses that I think I could get would be a Canon zoom. A cine zoom is what they call it. I actually have one and I'm using it right now. It's joined the setup for this recording area. It's super nice and really cool, but I don't wind up using it because it's a 70 to 200, which is super useful. And if I need to, I'm just going to grab it off this camera. It's literally the one I'm using right now. And I'm going to be able to use that out in the field, but I don't find myself using it that much. What I would like to get, they make an 18 to 40 maybe or something like that. It's another one, but it has the motor built in. So I can do a controlled zoom without me trying to get the right movement and my hand jitters or anything. Like, you can just use the motor. It's obviously better, but it's several $1,000s. So I had to make a choice. I went with the 7200. I've used it a couple times. It's been great, but it now joins here as a face cam for when I'm recording in the studio. That would probably be about the only thing I would want to upgrade when it comes to a wide angle lens to go out there. That'd be cool to get. But honestly, I probably would just wind up getting more DZO films because they make some really great lenses. They're Canon EF, so I can slap them onto I don't need any converters or adapters or anything. They work with the Ursa Mini, and I'm happy with them. That quality is great. So that would be about the only upgrade I would make. A motor on a different lens. Look it up if you're curious. I don't have one to show you. Now, when I go out and I do all that and I'm set up, I need something to put the camera on, right? It's not a surprise. It's a tripod. And it has seen some use. This is the same thing. So far, none of this is new from the video that we've done in the past, but here it is. This is a Came TV 18T Pro carbon fiber 100 millimeter fluid head tripod, and I bought it for almost $1,500. It has been an absolute workhorse. It's a little hard to show because it's massive, but it's awesome. The actual, like, I wish I could get this quality without paying this price for everything, but it's so big and bulky. It's huge. And it's awesome. It holds everything and it does exactly what I want. You need a special plate to go on top of it. That's what was on the bottom of it. But the fluid head is smooth. I have no problems controlling it. The controls, I guess, are super intuitive. Like, this has been the best tripod I've ever owned, but it obviously is the most expensive tripod I've ever owned as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It does great. I needed something that would carry a lot of weight. And that's why I wound up getting this. Was I looked up and went, okay, what's the best camera tripod that I can afford? Because obviously there's way better ones. So when you get into buying heads and legs separately and you get to cinema cameras and really high-end stuff, you're getting into things that are extremely heavy. And like on a movie set, if they were going to use something like that, they would have a person to carry the tripod and a person to carry some of the camera stuff and a person to carry the lens. I'm one person. I'm going out. I got to be able to take all this with me in one go. Or make multiple trips, but then that delays how long it takes me to get out there and get seeing wildlife. So something like this in the bag, sling it over my shoulder, take this along with the camera and everything else. I can get it in one go, but it's over 100 pounds, that's for sure. It's heavy, and I've had to bulk up in order to carry this thing properly. But best tripod I've ever owned, and Came TV is on the more affordable end of cinema equipment, which is saying a lot because everything is incredibly expensive. A Manfrotto would be cool. I've never looked into getting a better tripod. I haven't needed to. So while I have gone, ooh, I dream of getting a better lens or a better camera, I have no problems with this right now. It hasn't hindered me in any way, and I've had zero reason to start researching what would be the next upgrade for it. I'm happy with it. It's great. And you'll notice we use this brand several more times. When it comes to a tripod and I can afford it, I will get a Came TV when possible, because they just make really good quality tripods for the price. I'd love to touch a Manfrotto one day, like a really good, or like I think Satchler, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but I know they make some really good ones that are cool. For now, this works and it's good. And I have no desire to upgrade at any point unless I get a really nice camera maybe or something, but I have nice cameras. I don't know. Anyway, that's the tripod. This is what I use when I go out and I'm doing sit down and shoot wildlife. Whenever I have the opportunity and I can actually sit down in a location and record for an extended period of time and I'm not trying to be mobile or anything, this is what I use. When it comes to being mobile, we have a different setup. So when I want to be a little bit more mobile, when I want to be able to move around a bit, and especially go looking for birds that are on the move or something along those lines, or go explore a place where I need to walk around a bit more, it's really difficult to do with the Ursa. It's just so heavy and big and bulky. I can load everything into bags and walk out there and set up. But then what? Like, then I got to put it all back into bags to kind of walk around, or I try lugging everything. It's not ideal. This one's a lot more ideal for something like that. And I've been getting a lot more use out of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. This was the first thing I ever bought when it came to doing video specifically, instead of still photography only, way back in 2020. Bought it for about $2,000. Been great ever since. The only things that, like, I've upgraded a few things. You can see I've moved the ports up to here with the use of some adapters. There's all kinds of accessories you can get for this thing. I definitely put it through its paces so far. I've been using it. There's also a mount on here so that I can do a sunshade and actually be able to see the screen. I also have an external monitor that I use with it. That's the whole thing that we use with this. But, about $2,000 is great. The only thing is battery life. And I've tackled with it. I've struggled with it and tried to do different things. It has the standard Canon mount, Canon batteries, as far as I understand them to be, and they don't last very long at all. They're basically unusable with that kind of battery, which is why they've made an upgrade since then, but I don't own that. What I do use instead is V-mount batteries with an adapter. Dummy battery goes in, it goes into a V-mount, and we use that, and they last for much, much, much longer, which is great. But I need to pair that with a lens, and again, we go something more mobile, right? This is the Canon 100 to 400 millimeter. I bought this a couple years after, or a year after or so. It's great. It does that, which is super useful. Again, I put a 2x extender on it. So the other one that I have, that other big Canon, was a 300 millimeter. You put a 2x extender on it, you get about 600 millimeter equivalent. And it takes that f2.8 and it makes it an f5.6, your iris, how far it can open, because it's zooming in. This one goes considerably higher. This one, does it say on here? Yeah, 4.5 to 5.6. That's it naturally. So typically when I put the 2x extender on here, I'm shooting f9, f12, somewhere in there, which works and it's okay, but I do need a lot of light. It's the only downside to this, but it does technically get more zoom. I can boost my ISO on my camera, so it does work out. It's not the most ideal, but this was considerably cheaper. We bought this for about $2,000 brand new back in the day when I was ready to step into video, and I paired it nowadays. I bought this one renewed, I think, for $1,600, $1,660, something along those lines. It's great. It works super well. I've gotten back into using this. I started using it for a while, then we switched to the Ursa, then I went back and forth, and I dropped off doing video for a while, but we're back into it. This has been the main thing when we go out shooting because we don't have a good location to go and sit down. So all the videos most recently in the past probably 6 months have been me going out with this setup here. I put a shotgun mic on just so I can get some scratch audio. We'll talk about audio in a minute, but this paired all the way up when it's fully kitted out, it's not that heavy in comparison to the Ursa. Don't get me wrong, it's still heavy, but it works, and I'm super pleased with it as it is. If I were to upgrade, obviously there's better lenses than this. Definitely better lenses than this, but it's what I can afford for right now, and I do want something that has a zoom and is capable. I don't really plan on doing any upgrades for this. This one is much more attainable. This one might actually happen. They have released 2 versions since this. Well, okay, they've released one version of this, another version that's slightly different, but they've released a new version of this, the Pro, I think they called it, that basically has, what all are the upgrades? It's got built-in ND filters like the Ursa, so I definitely would want that. It's got an upgraded base, so you can slot in different batteries, so I wouldn't necessarily need a V-mount. I can use the other style of battery that I forget off the top of my head, but I use them for other things, so like that would be cool. But then they just released the, what did they call it? I wrote it down here as far as a battery. And there's another good reason why. How do you pronounce that? Pixis? I don't know how you pronounce that, but it's also 6K and affordable. It's about $3,000. I can't believe I'm saying that's something that's affordable. It's about $1,000 more than I paid for this one brand new to get that one. But the biggest thing, this sensor right here, it's not the biggest sensor in the world. It's Super 35, I think. I actually don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Anyway, they make a bigger, better one. The newest thing is more of a box style camera, kind of like the Ursa, which I like, but it has a full frame sensor. Big sensor, big fat sensor. I needed the biggest sensors I can get because they do really good quality. They not only do they usually look good, and I prefer the look of a full frame and how much more you can fit in it. But anyway, a look is a look. But it's a bigger sensor, so it lets in more light, so I can shoot in darker conditions, which I need as much light as possible. So I could pair that up. That would be really nice. And again, about $3,000 for the body. Then I would have to get adapters. Then I would have to get a viewfinder because my other viewfinder won't work for it. It's a totally new system. Then I'd probably spend like $6,000 on a brand new one. I would love to do that someday. And that one's more on the horizon of like, I'm going to start putting money towards that, I think, hopefully. I'd like to do that, is upgrade to something like that, because I think it'll still be lighter. I prefer the box shape over the more DSLR shape, honestly. And I could use this for other things. Like, that's typically what happens. Get a new camera, everything kind of passes down. But it's out of the reach for right now. That's what I would like to do in the future. Hopefully I can afford one at some point. I got to look into, I think the last question I had was, how would I record to SSDs? Because I much prefer doing that. SSDs are, even getting the good quality ones that will actually keep up with the recording, they are cheaper still than buying the like CFast cards or CF Express or whatever the newest, fastest SD card type thing that can actually handle all of the recording of those. Those are ungodly expensive, and I've never used anything like that. Whenever possible, I shoot straight to SSDs on the top. I shoot to full 2.5-inch SSDs on the Ursa. I just prefer that. I get way more space. I can buy a terabyte of that for cheaper than I can get considerably less space on a little SD card, which would actually fit into something like this. And I just call them SD cards. As I said, they're CFast, they're CF Express, they're whatever they are. I honestly don't even consider them because they're just so ungodly expensive. But all of this here needs to go on a tripod. So very similar to what we did before. Well, It's not going to surprise you because I think I already said specifically what we use, but it's another Came TV. I tried other ones. I tried lighter ones. I tried ones that are now here in the recording studio because they just aren't great while you're out there. This thing is fantastic for what I had to get. Let's see, where are my notes on this tripod right here? Is the Came TV 601A aluminum tripod, video tripod with fluid head. I paid $120 for it. I'm sure I bought it used. I don't know if that's what it would have cost brand new, but very similar design. It has the multiple legs, so it stretches out with everything. It's extremely sturdy. It has a fluid head. It's got decent. It's not the best. That's about the only downside here. One, it's heavy. It's aluminum. It's not carbon fiber, but it works. And the actual head itself is not nearly, the other one has like resistances built in, so it can like smoothly turn, and it accounts for the weight of it. It's a genius. I've never used a tripod like it. This one's not so much. It's still good and it still works for what I'm doing, but I can't get like really smooth shots of it's the sacrifice, right? If I've got the bigger camera, if I've got everything set up, that tripod head works much better for actually getting like tracking birds in flight. This one, not so much. This one's more of a point and shoot almost. I can still get it. I can still, be able to track things however I have to, but it's not perfect for that. That's about the only thing. But it was considerably cheaper. Did I say that? I think I did. $120, whereas the other one's $1,500. And I can just kind of sling this thing on my back and go. That's the whole point of this, is mobile. I'd probably get something a little bit better. I don't know. I'm sure they make a carbon fiber in this form factor, in this size, but it probably costs money. Everything seems to cost money. That's what we use when it comes to that. I also use, I'll just mention it because it's not in the bag right now. I put a shotgun mic when I'm on there. It is the Audio Technica AT875R shotgun condenser microphone. There were other words in that. The shotgun mic, I paid like $109 for it. It's the best shotgun mic I've actually used. I've tried other ones, including I started looking into getting ones that were powered so that I wouldn't have to provide 12 volts through, because that will drain a battery. And I was trying to explore different things, or especially when it started coming to vlogging and capturing, if I was going to spend money on a microphone, I wanted to be able to use it in multiple ways. I don't recommend any of that. I got a Rode one that kind of sucks as far as that goes. The quality is not nearly as good for this stuff, but that's getting into audio. So let's talk about audio. That was a lot of video. Now let's talk about audio. Audio is very important. It's fully half of video. I recognize the old saying is go watch a video, and if the video sucks, then but the audio is good, it's still listenable. But if it's the other way around and it's really good quality, but the audio is like whiny or hissy or really low quality, you won't want to watch it as much. I gotta be honest with you, I'm both. If the video or the audio is poor quality, I'm less likely to want to watch the video regardless, which is why I kind of struggle. I strive for the best quality that I can afford, and that's kind of the theme of all of this. But audio, I don't get I wrap my head around cameras more so than I do audio. When I go out and I've got the mobile setup, I put a shotgun mic onto, there's things on there, but I put a shotgun mic onto there. This is the Audio Technica. I missed my notes. This is the Audio Technica AT875R. Why are there extra words in the title of this thing? I think I just copied it off the listing where I bought it. It's a shotgun condenser microphone. I paid about $109 for it. It's the first thing I bought when I went, I know I got to do audio. I need to capture this. I understand XLR microphones, how they work, and that it needs phantom power. I've tried some things since then. I have other shotgun mics that I use for other purposes, like vlogging or just capturing scratch audio for the vlog or the landscape nature shots. I don't recommend them nearly as much. I have a Rode. Let me grab it. I didn't write this down. I don't remember how much I paid for it. Probably like $200 if I had to guess. It was in a bag, so the the windscreen's a little weird. But anyway, I don't remember what this is either. It's a Rode Super something video. No, it's a Video Micro Pro. I want to say something. It's got cat hair on it, which is great. I try to keep all this stuff clean, but I have a cat, so it's near impossible. Anyway, it works okay. It works fine for like kind of everyday stuff. If I need to do a vlog shot or something, and for some reason I'm not mic'd up, but I almost always am, so I don't wind up using it this much. Currently, it stays in the bag with the vlog camera, which we haven't talked about. We'll get to. I was kind of separating it up. Vlogging will be separate, but in the audio section here, I put that on there. I can't use it for wildlife hardly at all. Actually capturing detailed like bird songs and stuff, it's really not great at. It's just used for, I need ambient sounds of I'm getting a landscape shot, or there's something making a decent enough noise, a loud waterfall or the wind or something like that. And it's just for landscape. It's definitely not directional enough that I can use it to get any kind of useful audio when it comes to capturing the sounds of the wildlife, but nature, it does okay. So I have that. Don't really recommend it. It was more expensive. The best part about it was that it didn't need a battery, but it's got a battery built into it that I have to charge up, so it doesn't need 12 volts of power. So I guess that saves me from my V-mount coming out the camera, but honestly, not really worth it. I don't use this for any critical audio that I want to capture. It's just what it is. These are things that I learned. I would not have spent nearly this much on it had I known that when I bought it. But continuing with audio, when we are not as mobile, you may have seen recently that I've upgraded to some military surplus bags. They work great in certain situations. They're not perfect for everything, but especially for audio, it works really well. So that's what I have in here. I got a bunch of stuff in here. We're just going to cover kind of the highlights. That's been this whole thing. We're doing the highlights of everything, the big ticket items, the cameras, the lenses, things like that. I don't think it would really, like, that already might be boring as a video. I would enjoy it, but I don't know if anybody else is really going to enjoy it, to go through every single thing that's in the bag, right? Like, is that interesting? I guess you can leave a comment if that's something that you really want to see, and maybe I'll do that, but it'll be like a 4-hour video, which would be a lot. When I go out and I'm getting audio and I want quality audio, top of the line audio, the another reason that I mentioned the shotgun mic, the 2 shotgun mics that we have, anything else I've ever used, here's the problem with all of it. It all has a self noise floor. They all make some amount of noise. That's just how audio recording works. Any device, no matter what it is, if you turn it up loud enough to the point where you're trying to get really detailed noises like bird song, you get a lot of hiss and grain. And it is very difficult for my limited skills to remove the hiss and the grain and make it sound nice and crisp and clear without also removing the bird sounds. So it's better to record it without them. Now, when it comes to recording, especially that, I have put a decent amount of time into researching bird noise recording audio, what do professionals use, things of that nature, in order to understand how it works, because I struggle with audio. I picked up cameras a lot easier, but audio is something that I've always struggled with. As far as affordability, there are much better microphones I could get, but these are the Rode M5 condenser microphone matched pair for about $200. I picked these up. They work super well. I can put them in the different configurations in order to pick up nice sounds. That's about the best I can do as far as just wide area. Again, I think of it in terms of landscape, and I think of it in terms of a zoom on the lens. So if we're all zoomed in, the shotgun mic does a better job of picking up that one bird that I'm recording out in the distance. When I'm just trying to capture all the sound, these work really well. They also need phantom power, so you can have something to run it, but I'm really happy with those. For the price of only $200, they make much better ones for several $1,000s that I'd love to upgrade to one day, but I've never put any money into that. Maybe it's just because audio doesn't interest me as much. I focus more on the camera and the video side of it, to be honest with you. But when it comes to the noise floor, like I was talking about, looking it up, there is one above anything else. There is one device, and it's like a Sony PCM. I don't remember the exact numbers, but that is the top tier for noise floor. It is the quietest recording device on the market. They don't make it anymore. It's not really on the market, but I've looked it up and I researched it, and it was several $100s. And realistically, it would be like a couple decibels between this, which I could actually buy because they still make it, and that one, which I would have to get secondhand. This was also $700, and the other one started at like 1,000 used because it was multiple thousands brand new. That's the top tier. If I upgrade anything for audio, I'd love to get one of those, but realistically, it's not worth it for what I'm doing. maybe one day, but this does me really well. I can do 6 inputs on this. This is the Zoom F6. I don't need 6 inputs at any point realistically, but it's a multi-track recorder. So say if I really wanted to, if I really had a lot of things, I could set up the shotgun mic in one direction on the camera itself. I could set up the audio from the matched pair. That's what I was trying to say. I could get all of that into here. And the only thing I looked into it, I had some money. I was trying to figure out what would be the best upgrade at the time, but I already owned this and I could use this in the recording setup. I have a multi-track that is 4, but I could put 6 and then have additional microphones. You can see I use 2 right off the bat, just so I always have one in case I get away from the mic. I don't have to demonstrate that. I think you understand what it means. But the Sony and a Tascam was another one that would have a similar really high, like professional noise floor, as quiet as possible. They don't have, or maybe one of them did or the other one didn't. I don't remember at the Sony. I remember looking into it and deciding it wasn't going to be worth it because of the time code. Time code. When you record something, imagine, if you aren't familiar with it, imagine that there is a timer running at the same time. That's the time code. It is how you sync. Have you ever seen behind the scenes of a movie where they have the slate and they slap that together, the clapper? That's what that is for. It's so you can sync your audio and video, and professionals use it with actual devices that connect to each other. One of them will generate a time code, and the other ones will all sync to it. That's how you get audio in sync without having to manually go through and do it. And if you can imagine what that's like for humans already as it is, like there are technologies, I use it every video I ever do where I sync and I record my audio separately. DaVinci Resolve, the software that I use, has the ability to just match the waveform, and I don't have to do the manual like clap sync and try to line it up and make sure that the lips match the movement. I don't have to do any of that. It's brilliant. That doesn't work at all when it comes to bird noises or nature in general, or anything that's not humans talking, gameplay, anything. Just doesn't work. I have to be very careful about that. But time code is super useful when it comes to that. It's about the only way that I can, when I first started, I was using a different recorder that I had because I went, well, I don't need it as much, but there was no way because I couldn't sync it up. I would just slap it on. The early videos before I made this upgrade were just audio recorded and then put on the file and went good enough. I think I tried once or twice to record audio of a bird making a call where you could very clearly see it and sync it up. And I went, oh, this is a nightmare. I can never do this. I'll never be able to tell because the time code's all over the place. So not at all. These are Tentacle syncs. Tentacle is the brand or the company. I don't know. I don't know if it's a model. I think Tentacle's the company, isn't it? I don't remember. It doesn't. That's not the really important part. The important part is that they work and they work well. They're USB-C recharge. Battery lasts forever. I've got 3 of them. One of them goes attached to here to generate the time code and pull it off of here. Then it sends it to my 2 other cameras so that even if I'm out there with everything, which almost never happens, I can sync that up. Basically, it overwrites the time code. So if this thing starts and let's say we press the record button at exactly 9 a.m., it will sync that 9 a.m. to my camera regardless of what the other time is. And when I get to editing, I can just go, here we go, sync them by their time code. It works flawlessly. It's perfect. I just had to get a couple of these, and these were not cheap. A set of 2 of them was $400, and then another one was another $230. They are not cheap, but it is well worth it because otherwise it would be an absolute nightmare of either running cables, which is not good. Like I take this, you can see there's some camo stuff here, right? Like I take this and I go put it so you can't hear me, ideally. I'll go put it 20, 40 feet away, whatever it is, so that I don't get picked up sitting there rustling around, messing with the camera. Whatever it is when I'm out there making noise, I don't want that to come through on the recording. I want nice, clean audio away from me. So I need that to wirelessly sync. And it connects to an app on my phone, works great. That's how I capture the audio when I'm out there. There is another kind of audio, and that's me talking. There's a whole other side to this. It's the vlog. So the other whole side of this, I go out, I see nature, I record it, I'm happy, everything's going great, and then I want to share it. I mean, that's the whole point of everything that I'm doing here is to share it with other people. And so I record vlogs when I'm out there, and I need audio. So I bought these a long time ago. These are just Rode Wireless. They're the Gen 1. They have a much better one that's out now, and I would love to get that, but it's quite expensive. This already, getting these 3 was, where are my notes on this? I don't have them, so I don't remember. Dang it. It doesn't matter. That one's not super important. I record off of those. I don't use these as much. This is more backup audio. I don't They're fine. They worked great. And then I upgraded the cameras at one point and I got better audio and I wanted to use wireless packs that didn't require AA batteries. And actually, I took the ones that did AA's and did the hand me down and put them in this setup here. That's now changed as well. Now I use for my lav mic, I have another set of Rode, but I got the white ones off eBay for, these ones were like 80, I want to say, for a pair, just a single, because I don't need more than one. But Rode actually works really well. The downside, this may die one day because it's an internal battery that I can't change out for anything, so it's not very future-proof, whereas the other one, I just slot AA's in it all the time, but it kills AA's really quickly, so like there's a trade-off there, and it's bigger, and it's bulkier, and the audio doesn't sound quite as good. It doesn't have as good of preamps. Anyway, this does work. For audio, for vlog, for recording gameplay and having a lav mic, like Rode works really well for that. And I actually use this when I'm out as well. It does a pretty good job at being a shotgun mic. I have a magnet on one I talked about more recently so that I can stick it to my shirt or whatever when I'm out. The other one goes on the camera itself. And a base station for them to connect back to. This actually does okay. It's still not great. I will pair this with that previously mentioned Rode shotgun mic to capture audio wirelessly, because then I can take it off the camera if I need to, or if I need to sync it so that it's all within one track, so I've got both ways. I've done that before in case, sometimes I record a lot in the car when I'm doing a vlog, and I'll be scratching my shirt, or it'll just be I put the mic in the wrong spot and it's rubbing up against, a piece of equipment or a piece of clothing. It's not perfect. So I try to also have, or if you need to hear what's happening outside, there was one video not too long ago where I was sitting in my car and there was a flock of birds that huge flocks that went over. And it was actually super useful to have the audio off the shotgun mic there as opposed to only my lav, there was no chance I was going to capture that. But speaking of a lav, again, something that I have been trying to upgrade. We did upgrade this. Whenever I record my lav audio, I use the Zoom F2 recorder. It's attached to the bag. This, I did write down. The F2 Ultra Compact doesn't have Bluetooth. It's not the upgraded version with that because I don't need that. I'm not connecting it to my device or anything. I just needed off camera in my pocket recording. And the only downside to this is that it kills AAA batteries very quickly. So I don't have time to swap batteries. I'm lazy, and it just lives in this bag anyway. I rarely ever take it out or do anything or actually put it on me. So I just use a USB-C to run it to an extra battery bank that I have in there. I typically, the other thing, I go out in below freezing weather or sometimes below zero weather. These batteries, AAA's, AA's, anything like that are dead instantly. I will get less than 10 minutes of recording time, regardless. They die so very quickly. Battery banks actually last a lot longer. So I do have battery banks typically whenever possible. Oh, I absolutely do not recommend that brand. I'm currently going through a recall situation with ones that will light on fire. So pretend you didn't see that. Anyway, I just get battery banks off of wherever I get battery banks from, but battery banks typically last longer. So I wind up using them with this. But the more important thing there is that I used to just use a Zoom microphone. I've tried Rode microphones. I bought a Sennheiser one that was for USB-C when I was trying to use my phone for audio. That did okay. Lav mics here, there. I wanted to do an upgrade. And I think I had money around a Christmas, if I remember correctly. This is the Tram TR50 Omni lavalier microphone with 3.5 millimeter locking Sennheiser connector, black, for $254. Is great. It actually does sound, I listened to it. I did a comparison because I was like, I've got a new microphone. I want to test it out. And I did just sit down and talk and then do it both ways. The only thing about this little thing here is it's square, whereas most of them are round. Are we going to focus? Hello? Hey. Hey, focus. All right, whatever. Anyway, it's a little square thing. It doesn't fit in its mount super well. It has a square mount that it goes on there, and it pops off constantly. And I've tried other things. It's got a round cable, whereas I've got a magnetic clip that's made for not a round cable. I've struggled with the mounting of this since I got it. And I just recently bought a pack of these. I don't know if these are going to work. I have bought them. I have not used them yet, but they seem like they're going to be it's a decent clip. I wish I could get metal ones. I wish I could do better. But as it turns out from what I'm looking at, there's either the really cheap stuff that probably isn't going to work. There's ones that are not made for big round cables or square microphones, or there are ones like that. But a lot of professionals just put it under their shirt. they actually like mount it to themselves and they use sticky tape and stuff. And for one thing, I don't like things that aren't reusable. I don't want to use one-time thing. Like, I would get better performance battery-wise out of double A's that are not rechargeable. I know that, but they are then disposable. I hate things that are disposable. I am trying to use this for the long term. I want to buy it once and use it for as long as humanly possible. So I'd rather not get patches that stick to my skin, that then I have to shave my chest, otherwise I'm pulling hair out every time, and then I'm using that constantly. It would be better. It would be under the clothing. It would be muffled somewhat, I feel like, but there are ways to overcome that. It's just a hassle. I only put this on. I don't wear it the whole time I'm out. It's when I get back in the car and I sit down, I go, okay, I'm going to talk for a few minutes and I want the audio to sound good. I'm trying to make everything sound as good as possible. And to make sure that I can hear it, I just grab some cheap in-ear buds and use those. And that's what I do when it comes to audio for the vlog. But I didn't talk about the video for the vlog, so let's quickly go over that. The vlog has always kind of come secondary. It used to use, well, as a matter of fact, this overhead camera right here, which was a Canon M50 Mark II. It was mirrorless. I thought that would work well. Turns out it can't do 4K 60. I knew that, and I wanted to do 1080. Everything you notice that we've been using is 4K 60 for a reason. That is my preferred aspect ratio and frames and like that resolution, I should say, not aspect ratio. That's 16:9. Resolution 4K. I like 4K. If I could get better than 4K, I'd want that. But for right now, 4K is that sweet spot. I don't really like to look at 1080. All my screens and devices are 4K, and I don't like having that upscaled. It doesn't look good. So I want 4K. 60 frames a second, it's just better. I don't like 30 frames a second. I prefer the 60. You get more motion in there. You can see more when it comes to the wildlife. And mixing frame rates, if I were to record vlogs in 30 and wildlife in 60, it's a nightmare to try to edit. I did that and realized that I messed stuff up, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So I could do 1080 60 on the Canon, and I get more of a mirrorless DSLR, and then it would overheat anyway. We've been through the overheating situation when it comes to recording 4K 60 is insane. And that's why Blackmagic, we'll get to that. But anyway, this does 4K 60. This is a DJI Pocket 2 that I paid $350 for. I'm not a fan of DJI anymore. I can tell you that. There's been some issues in the fact that their apps are no longer on the Play Store. You might want to look into that with that. But it's a problem because they make really good stuff. And it's like, man, I wish you weren't located where you were and your app would be accepted because it wouldn't have tracking and, spy stuff, I assume. I don't know if that's actually been proven. I believe that's just a rumor, but they couldn't guarantee it wasn't, and it got taken off the Play Store. So the only time I used that, which is unfortunate because using the gimbal and everything. But anyway, we're not getting into that kind of stuff. I use this. They make a newer version. I don't know if I would get that or if I'd look for a different brand and company in the future. The other one has a bigger screen that folds out and can go, horizontal, which would be cool to see. It would be nice, but it does what I need it to. It does 4K 60 and it does it while being steady. If I have to do anything handheld, the fact that this thing's a gimbal and keeps up with, for the most part, it can do that. That's a really nice feature. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want, is something that is steady, because the other thing I really hate is shaky footage. I try to make everything look as good as possible, and camera shake doesn't look good to me. A GoPro Hero 9 Black. About $300 for this. They do have better ones. They have newer ones. This one suits me just fine. It does 4K 60 exactly the way I want to. If they were to ever do one that does better, maybe I'd look into it at some point. It wouldn't hurt to have a second one for one reason or another. Sometimes I'm usually capturing multiple angles, or I want to set this thing up and let it go on a time lapse for a long time. But it works fine. The only problem I ever had with it was the audio. So I bought the, media mod, whatever that they call it, that puts a microphone on there so I can get audio out of it. And that's been hit or miss, honestly. I've had problems with this one way or the other, but for what it is and the fact that it was only $300, it works great. That's perfectly fine. I don't have the gimbal with me, but the gimbal goes on the other camera. Let's grab that. At a certain point, I wanted the vlogs to look better. I wanted them to just keep up with the quality of everything else that we were doing. I was tired of shooting on this thing's tiny little sensor for the most part. Yes, it's a gimbal, but if I have a steady shot already, the tiny little sensor in here doesn't look great. It can't do any kind of exposure. I would constantly be over or underexposed, mostly overexposed. It would be really, really bright, especially because I record in my car and then you get sunlight and it blows everything out. At a certain point, I just wanted it to be better. And also, then I can get landscape shots for the vlog. So at some point over the last year, within the last 6 months or so, we bought. Would you believe it? Another Blackmagic camera. There's a reason. I started out with this because it was dedicated. I didn't have a 30-minute time limit like the Canon cameras, and I could actually get decent footage. That thing is wobbling and it's bothering me. And so Blackmagic makes great cameras. I do really enjoy that. They are a great resource between, like, they are that mid-price point of, to the point of it's no longer consumer and it's not professional, it's prosumer would be a terminology you could use for it. And it's more affordable than anything else while getting some really good quality. And I particularly all enjoy everything there. And then the fact that I got started with videos editing in DaVinci Resolve, that's the best editing software I have ever used. I've used several. I've gone through Adobe Suite. I never had a Mac, so I didn't try anything on there, but Blackmagic actually works and is stable. It almost never crashes. I would have crashing constantly on Adobe software. And I don't know if that's gotten better over the years, but I just never was interested in going back to it. Blackmagic has everything I need. I can do my audio in there. They've made Fairlight even better. I can do a lot of stuff in there. I can do all my color editing in there. Like, DaVinci Resolve is hands down the most useful thing I've ever bought. And the fact that it comes with every one of their cameras is fantastic. It's the best software that I've used, hands down. So I am more inclined when getting cameras to lean towards Blackmagic because they work so much better. I have Sony cameras that we'll talk about in a minute. They are now only still photography, but I got them for their video capability while being smaller. And I get those and process them, and I look at the footage and go, this looks great. It's not like it looks that much better, but it edits terribly. And I have to like process it beforehand, which takes hours. This just works. The Blackmagic RAW, I can get all the full color detail, everything out of it. If I buy more video cameras, they're probably going to be Blackmagic, honestly. I wouldn't mind trying a red one at some point, but it's hard to pull away from this system now that I'm so integrated into it, and it just works. And it works really well, and I'm happy with what I get. But anyway, this is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, which is a step down from the 6K that I got. But it works super well. It's even lighter. It's basically the same size, isn't it? But it's got a smaller resolution. It doesn't do up to the 6K. It does 4K. And the lens is smaller, the sensor, I should say. The lens mount and the sensor are different. This one has a much smaller sensor. I put away the other one. Just remember what it looked like. This is a Micro Four Thirds sensor and lens mount. It is much smaller. It's not the Canon anymore, which is, well, might have been a problem for me because I didn't have any lenses for that. But the listing I bought this on eBay, total price $1,050, which was, I will say, priced to move. It was fair. It's not like it was super under, but these cameras alone will go for $1,000, and these lenses go for multiple $100s as it is. So I feel like I got a pretty good deal there, and I'm happy about it. It's got this camo skin on it that the guy put on. You can't really even tell because it's kind of dark in here with everything. It's just like a sticker. I went, oh, cool. It's like a dark camo. It's not necessary, but it's fun. I put a body on it like I do everything else. I put a mount on it so I can get the outputs so that they're not stuck in there, and I can actually use them in a way that's more usable. I don't suffer any loss for that. I'll slot it in. This is a mount up on the top where it goes, and then I put other things on there, and this is fantastic. An Olympus 12 to 40 millimeter lens. I don't know if I said that. This is great. This for $1,000? Are you kidding me? That's great. I mean, this thing records in 4K 60 with no problems. Battery, I tried. I really, really tried to use different kinds of Canon batteries. The L9, I think it is, or whatever it is. I've honestly forgotten at this point. But like, that don't last. It does not work. This thing is too beefy for these batteries. Honestly, they should not be paired together. It should not come with that. But dummy batteries exist. V-mount batteries exist. I have tried and tried and tried. The last time I went out was the last time I tried using these batteries. It was a couple weeks ago. We're in the winter, by the way. I don't know if I said that, however long into this video that it is. It's full snowing outside right now, so that's why I'm inside recording this right now. But the last time I went out, I gave it one more shot. Those batteries die so quickly. Even the best ones that I have, I got like 10 minutes of recording time on it, and I try to do long shots with this. Like, this is what I've been doing when I've been more recently doing just the nature where I just go out and set this thing up and get 20, 30, however long. I'm out there for hours. I might as well set up a camera and let it go for a while. And then I bring it back to the car, and then I mount it on a gimbal in the car, which the gimbal I don't have because that's currently in a bag somewhere else. But the gimbal, just because I'm talking about everything, is another DJI, like I talked about. That one's the RS2 for DSLR, blah, 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 blah. I paid like $850 for it. It's great. It's a good gimbal. The software is a little, like we talked about, but I mount this on there. This is lighter, so it can actually fit on that. And I put it in my car. And now, instead of using this gimbal, this tiny, I'm just trying to take it out, this little thing with this little itty bitty sensor, I can have a full gimbal with this, and it's worked wonderfully so far. It was a little bit of a tricky thing to set up with another tripod that's out there. I mounted a tripod in my car almost, like it's strapped in, it doesn't go anywhere. And then this goes on top of that gimbal there. We used that on one of our more recent trips out when we went and did a long drive through a wildlife tour area at Rocky Mountain Arsenal. That was a lot of fun. That was really cool. And the fact that I just had this thing going the whole time, like this thing can handle that. It recorded for hours, and I filled a 1 terabyte SSD while I was on the drive out there and came back and was like, great, we got great vlog footage. This will be fun. So I'm really happy with that. Really happy with everything that we did by upgrading to this. We've got that, and no complaints. This has been great. I held off on it for such a long time because it wasn't as lightweight as this, and I couldn't just stick this in my pocket and go. But I realized I can have the best of both worlds. I can use this when I'm walking around and I just need to hold something. And when I'm more set up, I can use this for both landscape and capture nature in a really good quality. And it edits really well because it's Blackmagic. Or I can set it up in the car and get a vlog shot that doesn't make me want to cry. Okay, wait. The vlog camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, goes on this tripod. This is a Peak Design tripod. Well, it's got a different plate on top. I just stuck it on there because if you noticed, the vlog camera had something on the bottom so I could connect it to the gimbal, which is a thicker than normal. It's more the big video as opposed to photography style dovetail clamps. You know what I mean? I'm tired. I ate lunch since we recorded this earlier. I just sat down and realized I forgot this camera entirely. But anyway, this is Peak Design. This is the carbon fiber. It's really nice. It's expensive. Is this the carbon fiber? No, I think the carbon fiber was even more. I didn't write this down. I think this one was the, this is the travel tripod aluminum. Okay, so this one was like $350, and I think the carbon fiber would have been $550. So maybe one day I'll buy the carbon fiber. Wow, yeah, I'm doing great. But anyway, I use this when we go for the vlog stuff. There we go. Tripod. Peak Design. I got to put that into the beginning. On a Peak Design tripod. Hope that fits. That covers when I go out. We've talked about when I go sit down. We've talked about when I'm more mobile and I'm capturing wildlife. We've talked about the vlog. We talked about audio for all that. There is one other thing that I do on a regular basis, and that is still photography. Let's grab those cameras. Last, but most certainly not least, still photography. We use a certain amount of cameras for that. A certain amount? I mean, we use 2, and we use Sony now. We used to shoot with Canon. It was a long time ago, it feels like, but everything I did for the longest time since I started, for years afterwards, I shot with Canon cameras, mostly because I could get them decent priced for secondhand, and they worked great, and then all my lenses fit. And well, as I said, at a certain point, I went, okay, I kind of want to do video. And I could either continue going down Canon, which has been fine, or I could try a different brand and start trying to do video off of it. Well, enter the Sony cameras. This is my Sony A7R. It's not the first one that I bought. It's the 5. I actually got a different camera first. The first step into Sony cameras at all was the A7. It's not the R. The R stands for resolution. This thing shoots at a crazy high megapixel. This one's 20, and I want to say this one's 50. It's fine. They're both full frame. They both fantastic cameras. The A7 IV set me back about $2,500. I bought both of these brand new because the pricing for used didn't make sense, quite honestly. It was like I could save a couple $100. If I'm going with that much, I'd rather buy one brand new. If it's like when we're talking about such a large percentage of it, this one was close to 4,000, like 3,900. But they work great for what I've eventually got them to doing. What I bought them for originally, I was like, I'm going to use this. This is lightweight. This is, it's a mirrorless camera. It's full frame. It's going to record in 4K 60. I'm super happy with all that. The screen is not damaged. The screen protectors just started coming up in this corner, just to be clear. They're still in great condition, and they served me really well for taking photos. The photos started looking so much better when I upgraded from the Canon, because I went from a Canon 7D Mark II for wildlife, and then a Canon 5D Mark II for like landscape because of full frame. Got full frame on both of them. Mirrorless made quite an upgrade, but my plan was to use them for recording vlogs. And when I bought them in summer of 2021, 22, I tried. I went out in the car and I set it up and it overheated. And then it would overheat, and it would constantly overheat. And then I get back home and I go to edit them, and the footage would take forever to process because, again, I'm recording at the best possible quality, which I don't have to do, especially not for a vlog. But if I'm out there and I'm doing it, I want to do, I want it to look good color-wise. I want all the color space. I want to be able to just set it once and forget it. I want to be able to, like if I'm going to go out and I'm going to do video, I don't want to be switching settings between recording wildlife and recording vlog for as far as getting different quality. Plus, then I can't record wildlife in the highest possible quality. But it took me a while to figure that out. It was a couple of years of trying to use these Sony cameras before I finally went, okay, these are just still photo cameras now. Yes, they do video, but they just can't compete with the Blackmagic, in my opinion. This thing captures fantastic. I've never been happier with the wildlife photos that I get. And I pair this one, the higher quality resolution and more expensive camera, with a big old Sony lens. The Sony 200 to 600 millimeter, which I put camo skin on for fun and also to protect it. Put an extender on that. It's got a 1.4x extender on there. I'd like to get to 2 at some point just to have that extra bit of range, but it's a 5.6 to 6.3. It has image stabilization. That's another really, really important thing to use when you're doing photographs of wildlife. It looks great. I'm super happy with it as it is. I've been thrilled with this. I get plenty of reach with this. I go out and see, the only things that we could do are some of the people that I've seen out there. The only kind of upgrades are the bigger lenses for Sony, which I'd love to get, like a 600 millimeter f4 or the 400 millimeter f.2, or even the 300 millimeter f2.8. What did I say? f2.8 for both of those? Either way, the 600 was $13,000. The 400 is $12,000. The 300, that one would basically be on par with the Canon that we have. It would not be a zoom stuck at 300 millimeter, but then we could put a 2x extender, go from f2.8 to f5.6 and get 600 millimeter. Like I said, that was only about $6,000. That one might be more affordable, but this one set me back. Where did I put $1,637? I clearly, since it was at that price, bought it used, I'm guessing. I didn't mark that down on there, but either way, $1,600 for a lens and $4,000 for it. It's expensive. Just to be clear. Anyway, then we needed a lens for this, and I have a Sony lens that I don't have with me because, I had a little accident, and I wasn't carrying it in a case. As you saw, what I put on the table, Pelican cases, hard cases, are for their protection, and I just had the lens in a bag. The body was in a case. I made sure to keep that, but I didn't think about it. I had the lens in a bag. It was just a little canvas bag that I keep a water bottle in or whatever else I have to when I'm walking around. Usually it's more like my gloves and my hat and things that I don't need when I'm inside, but then when I get out there, I need them. So I just put all that in a canvas bag with my lunch for the day or whatever it's going to be. And sometimes I would put a Sony lens in there. It wasn't like it was super expensive. It was their stock, basic lens that came with it, but it worked for what I was doing. And I figured I'll use this and then I'll upgrade at some point down the road. Well, I dropped the bag, fell off the kitchen counter, broke the lens. Physically, it looks fine, but it doesn't focus. It has problems doing autofocusing or not. The focus actually is okay. It's the exposure. It's the iris. And I might service it. I might try to take it apart myself, but I just went ahead and got something else for the meantime, because I actually, in addition to using these for wildlife, I actually make money with this. This is how I do contract work as an independent contractor doing product photography and videography. When I do that, I just use these and I suffer with the editing for the video part of it using DaVinci Resolve and them just not being the best possible quality, but I also don't have to do those in 4K 60, that's for sure. But anyway, I use that. So I went ahead and got another lens because I had to have that in order to continue making money at doing that. I needed a zoom lens of some kind. This is a Tamron 28 to 200 millimeter f 2.8 to 5.6. DI3RXD if you want the full model number. This has been great. The only downside is that it's in pretty rough shape, which was not described on the listing. It's what I get for not buying off of eBay and unfortunately trusting B&H for a change. B&H has been fantastic. They've been just great. But I got to say, with this one, I was not pleased with the lack of description on the fact that this thing had been dropped. I can't use any kind of lens hood on this. It's completely destroyed. I don't know how well that comes through because it's black on black here on the camera. But anyway, it was fine. I bought it for $500. It's a much more expensive. I could have gotten one for that's been like, if I had any disappointment or, regret for any purchase I have ever made, it was actually this. And I just had to have it for contract work that was that weekend. I realized I dropped my lens on like a Monday and I had stuff I had to do on Friday and Saturday. So I needed something immediately. So rather than get one that I could see off of eBay, I went with B&H going, oh, I've always trusted them. It's been great. Very disappointed in this. I could have gotten one in the same kind of condition for the same price off of eBay without it being all busted up, and I would have been able to see it. So lesson learned there. I probably won't buy used from B&H anymore, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And I didn't feel right. I reached out to them just being like, hey, I just want to share my disappointment about this stuff. And to be fair, they came back and said, you can do a return because they offer returns with no questions asked or anything. It was like, I don't feel right using it, putting it to use, and then returning it afterwards. That's something that I'm not okay with. Morally, that's not, people do that. I know, buy a thing used or new, whatever it is, use it for the thing that they need to use it for and then return it. I'm not going to do that. It's fine. It's annoying that I can't use lens hoods on it. I wish I had the option to get something different had I known that was the case. I don't feel like it was described that way. This is not about that. Anyway, the whole point being, that's what I use this for. And I pair this lens with it, and this lens has been great. As far as quality itself, and it's fine. I've been very happy with it. I get pretty decent. I don't typically wind up needing to go all the way to 200 on something like this because I have the other 200 there, but it's been great for that. And it is a significant upgrade over the basic stock Sony lens that it came with. And that, I think, is everything. I've talked about what I would buy in one way or the other. Sure, there are better Sony lenses. I would love to be able to get, I really have enjoyed switching over to Sony for everything except for video. I have a Sony phone. I can use my Sony phone with my Sony camera to use it as an external monitor, and then it kills the battery super quick. So I stopped doing that, and I stopped using this for video. I went out and I just got tired of going out, battery dying. The quality isn't as good as the Blackmagic, gotta be honest. It's good. It does really well. It records in better ways. And honestly, the color space may be better on these when you record in the highest possible quality and it's capturing like 200 megabytes a second. And I don't remember what the Blackmagic does with RAW, but anyway, it gets nitpicky at that point. It almost looks better and I can edit it better. That's honestly what it comes down to. If the editing process is easier and better and the quality doesn't look noticeably different going from there, and the fact it's a still photo camera that has video capability. Blackmagic is a video camera. That's what it comes down to for me. And that's why I use those. I don't know why I'm like defending myself in this regard. This is what I've chosen. I'd like... Probably better to just put this right at the beginning of everything. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making it up as I go. I'm just trying things. This is what works for me in this moment. It might not even be the best thing for me because there's a lot of choices out there. I could go with different brands, different cameras, different lenses, different manufacturers, I could be going down a totally different path and be just fine compared to what I'm doing right now. So I don't know what the best thing for you is, certainly. I don't even know what the best thing for me is. But that's why I experiment and buy different things and try things and read what I can and learn about them before I purchase them. I'm doing the best that I can. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything, all the highlights. Like I said, I don't think it would even really be worth it to do. I wish my focus worked a little bit better on this one. Something we upgraded to here. Check this out. I'm working in this recording space. I now have a PTZ camera. Oh, and we can go up and you can see what's there, and I can zoom and we can zoom out. Oh, you don't need to see my feet. No, that's fine. I have socks on. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the focus is being a little funky on that. It's made for conference calls, but it's got an HDMI, so I can plug it into my HDMI recording setup and it works. But That's this whole thing. That's a totally different situation. Every camera that I use in here, which we are up to 6 now with different, one way or another cameras for recording gameplay, recording just these kind of videos, whatever I sit down to record, I have options for all of that. It's cool. This is fun, but most of it's hand-me-down stuff. I have purchased a few things like this specifically for recording in this area that have been more affordable. Like this PTZ conference camera was only about $100. Bought it used on eBay. Not bad. I'm pleased with it. The autofocus, I set it to manual, and it's had a little bit of, it's getting a little confused trying to focus on the microphone, which is technically sitting further ahead than me, or when I put something up on the desk. But this is the first time I've used this at all, and I'm fairly pleased with it. And the fact that I can, control it and get better shots. If I wanted to show, I'd be like, hey, check it out. That's as far as it zooms, though. They make a 20x version. This is a 3x optical zoom. But this video isn't about that. This video has been about what I've been doing when I go out and see wildlife. And that's all the things that I use, again, for the highlights. Yeah, we could talk about literally every single thing that I put into a bag and take with me, all the little adapters and cables and which brands I prefer and which ones I don't. I don't think that's going to be interesting. I think that would be multiple hours long. It's already been long enough that I've been doing this, and this took me years to make. I've been saying I'm going to record this for years, and it's going to feel so good to go cross this off the to-do list. It has legitimately been on my to-do list for like 2 years. Yeah, no, that's been a really long time that I've been like, I should record this. And I feel like every time I mention or I get a new camera or whatever it is, I go, I should make a video. I should talk about that in some way because I want to go in depth on it. This is half the fun for me. Half the fun is go out, see wildlife. The other half is get the new camera, the new toy, get to play around with it, see what you can do. It's fun. I enjoy both sides of it. I really enjoy photography. I really enjoy videography, cinematography, all the ographies that have to do with cameras and how they work. Really cool to me. It's a great time. And audio is secondary. I'm going to learn more about audio. I'm probably going to focus on that over this next year, but that was all the highlights. That was everything there. I think I've been rambling long enough, and I'm certainly just starting to repeat myself. That was everything and all the things, why I bought them, how I got them. It's not really the why. The why is simple. It's just what I can afford or what I'm aware of at that point in time, what I would upgrade to if I just had unlimited money. I think I've done what I set out to do, which was to specifically record a video talking about what I use currently in 2025. At the beginning of 2025, things change throughout as we go through, but at the beginning of 2025, that's what I've got that I'm taking out and using and why I'm using it to capture wildlife at the quality that I capture it at. It makes me happy, and so did making this. For as much as I stressed about it and the insecurities and all of the things I said at the beginning about the why I didn't and the way I had to, focus in and just be like, there are people who watch this and nothing else. So yes, there are people who do this better and can talk about things more fluently and coherently and talk about the pros and negatives and actually do reviews of products and talk about and give advice to people. And here I am just going, this is what I wanted to do. And if somebody is interested in watching this, great. So there we go. I can stop explaining and I can go put all this stuff away now because I had to drag all of it out to record this. And I'm going to go put it all back in the closet. Until next time. Bye, everybody. Whew, that was a long one.